At Krux, we're privileged to work with many of the world's leading marketers, and there's no better way to understand what's really going on and how the IMH is being put to work than to get off the balcony, get onto the battlefield, and dig in, start seeing how people are doing this. So, almost as if he knew I was coming, here's my good friend Matthew Lubeck.
It's a total surprise. All right.
Thank you, Matthew. So it's great to have you. Matthew is the VP of Customer Analytics, CRM, and Data Strategy at LOreal.
Yes.
It's great to have you. Thanks for coming, Matthew. So I was wondering if you could just give us a few notes on the who and the why. LOreal has really hurtled into this arena in the last year. Who's propelling it forward, and why are you investing so seriously on this?
Yeah, thank you. So for us, first and foremost, having clear ownership of our data has become a big new priority for LOreal. And not just owning it, but finding a way to have the right actionable environment for that data, and doing it with partners that are agnostic, doing it with partners that are transparent with us, and working with partners like Krux and our agency are making a big difference. You know, the why, for sure, we couched the first decisions around Krux inside of our programmatic media journey that we're having. And there are many use cases around programmatic activation, digital media optimization, but this is bigger than that for us. And this is fundamentally about understanding our consumer. And so for us, we are the world's largest beauty company. We know the beauty consumer, we think, across our 31 plus brands better than anybody. Sorry, Procter & Gamble, if you're here. But at the same time, the market knows more about that consumer outside of our four walls and who that customer is and what she's doing when she's not shopping beauty. And to let Krux conjoin those two worlds for us, we think that that's really working on the right direction to the right understanding of a fully dimensionalized consumer. So you take media use cases around programmatic and digital, and then you add this journey towards customer centricity together, and it's no surprise that our CEO and CMO aren't just supporting this initiative, but they're pushing it forward and accelerating.
Brilliant. So L'Oreal is seen as the beauty leader in both mass and luxury sectors. And I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about how do you find and tune exactly the right audience for the right consumer across such a broad portfolio of products?
Sure, well, it's super easy. No, it's not super easy. So first of all, for us, we think that you have to start with reach. So that's the first part of the journey that we've been on. We've been live with Krux for about 3.5 months now. And we already are seeing about 20% of our target market inside of our DMP, growing about 10 to 15% per week. So our math says that we could be at 100% of our market by the end of the year. In the meantime, we're amplifying that reach with the Krux platform through lookalike modeling up to about 200 million consumer potential, and then the attributes that exist in the Krux platform to dimensionalize that consumer. We're seeing really good results in our CPMs off of those first use cases with some big efficiency numbers. Then when we look at the mass and the luxury paradigm and kind of flip that reach into how we begin to speak to the consumer and where we put the dollar, these are really different use cases. You know, mass, you're talking about big budgets and the need to drive market share shifts that are hard to drive, and you've got to make every dollar count in the right way. So with some of the first analytics from Krux, we've seen up to 36% of some of our campaign dollars that we've identified could be reinvested differently, both inside of programmatic and then direct buys to improve mass performance of our campaigns. Then when we shift into the luxury sector, and this is really true to my heart because I'm an old CRM guy, not a media guy, what we're seeing is that it's much more around micro-targeting and really building a relationship with a smaller group of customers. And this is where the world of Krux, it really isn't a DMP. It really is about putting people at the center, and it really is around the convergence of CRM and ad technology. It's super cool to see the Salesforce logo here and to see Salesforce, I think, in the room. We believe that if our goal as marketers is really around trying to create that true omni-channel view of the customer, CRM and ad tech have to come together in full so we understand her everywhere. I think if we're in this room, that holy grail is starting to feel a little more in reach than it ever has.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Matthew. It's amazing to see the fast progress L'Oreal is making this last year. It's great to have you with us.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. So in my zeal to jump off the stage, I left the clicker there, so I'm going to ask Ben or somebody back to give me just one click if we can. You know, I was at a, there we go, thank you. I was at a conference last week where the conference host made a very sweeping claim, which was that 80% of the traffic that every entity on the web was seeing was coming through either Facebook or Google. 80%. And so the claim on the table was Facebook and Google have effectively already created a parallel internet, if you like. Well, I asked the conference host for his sources. He couldn't provide any. And then I got to thinking, well, what's the point of 3 billion devices and browsers, hundreds of billions of collection events per month if we don't actually test it and see? So I asked my data science team to look into this. Of course, our infrastructure is ubiquitously deployed across, we believe, around 80% of the engaged web. So if this is actually happening, we should see it. Well, we don't see 80%. And if you like specific numbers, give me a click. It's 8.2%. If arithmetic serves, it's quite a lot less than 80%. So the point here, and it makes perfect sense, is that we're not in 1996. We don't need Yahoo or AOL to take our hands and escort us around the internet. We know how a browser works. We have our favorite premium sites where we like to go, and that's what's powering a lot of the open web today. Speaking of premium experiences, we're fortunate to have Trevor Heel from Seeking Alpha with us today. Trevor, thanks for coming. So I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about what got you guys going with Krux this last year.
Yeah, so we started off with Krux about this time last year, and we identified that we needed to have a better understanding of our audience, and then secondly, to better monetize our audience. And the first year has been brilliant. We've killed it basically together.
That's awesome. So you were mentioning before the conference started that you've been able to identify 36%, am I saying that number right? 36%
Yes, that's correct.
of Seeking Alpha's users are financial services professionals, which is obviously an immensely valuable segment to folks in the financial sector. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you're doing with that insight and that audience this last year.
Yeah, so we've built out and enhanced our targeting, which has increased our CPMs massively. We're really fortunate in the case that our sell-through rates are really high because our content is so valuable. And after our first year, we've already seen an ROI of 24x by partnering with Krux, which has been massive. It's our best year ever for ad revenue because of working with Krux, basically.
Trevor, I never get tired of hearing about success stories like 24x. That's totally awesome. One question before I let you go. Could you comment a little bit on programmatic and how that fits into your longer-term strategy?
Yes, we've built out programmatic over, when I first started at Seeking Alpha, we were making $10,000 a month from programmatic. Now we just over $250,000 a month in programmatic, and this is basically due to being able to, utilize our the data across platform from Krux and selling private marketplace deals with John on our team, and and also building out lookalike targeting as well. It's been massive. We've also reduced our third-party costs by 10 as well. It's been amazing.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, thank you, Trevor, for sharing your experience with us. I appreciate having you. Thank you. So the H in IMH stands for hub. And if you're going to be a hub, you can't discriminate. Hubs that work selectively are like network routers that only handle traffic from Europe but not US. Tennis players who only do forehand, no backhand. Uber drivers who only take you around San Francisco but never to Palo Alto. If you're going to earn the mantle of a hub, you can't discriminate. You got to handle all of it. And in this context, that means not just laptops, mobile devices, tablets, gaming devices. It means thermometers, refrigerators, cars, chairs that give your particular posterior a hug. Hubs don't discriminate. And so it's instructive that we have Keurig, I believe, one of Krux's customers here with us today. They're charting their IoT future to a place where your coffee maker will now give you a perfect personal cup of joe in the morning. So IoT is really, really exciting, and it's happening now, Internet of Things. I think it's important to remember, though, when we talk about Internet of Things, what we really have in mind is the Internet of People, right? Or at best, the Internet of Things in the service of people. IoT, ISOP, that's a little clunky, but you get the point, right? For me, this is an interesting flashback to the Mark I, that big piece of metal in the lobby of my college building, right? That thing, which weighed many, many tons, had 1/250 millionth of the compute power that we now carry around in our handhelds, in our pockets, in our bags, which is evidence, I think, of the velocity at which we're moving towards this future of a connected everything. Laptops, mobile devices were just the first step. Now, to our knowledge, Krux is the only company in our space who supports 100% IoT-ready architecture today. It's not a thought or a concept on its way to an idea. It's not a push on our roadmap. It's something that we're doing today. And this is incredibly important for all of our customers because they want to know that if they start to conjure up new devices, they want to have the confidence to know that every new device, as long as it speaks HTTP, can be a first-class citizen of Krux's data fabric. As I mentioned, a lot of our customers are struggling with these issues, so no better place to bring a grizzled veteran like Dave Smith into the conversation to give us a view of what's going on. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Tom. Good to see you.
Good to have you here with us.
Always a pleasure.
So I am an avid Pandora user, and I want to know what you're doing.
Thank you, by the way.
Of course. Very curious to know, what is Pandora's IoT strategy? How are we going to help fans and users like me give me exactly the music experience I want, whenever, however I want it?
So I would say we don't have an IoT strategy. We don't think about IoT. It's not something that's important to us. What's important to us is exactly what you talked about, which is connecting to our listeners where they want to listen to music. I don't think we're in the chairs yet, but we're in refrigerators, we're in connected TVs, we're in Sonos devices, we're in a broad range of different devices, and we see our consumer in all of those different places. One of the nice things about Pandora from a data perspective is part of the experience is having your own personal access to your station list. And so your station list, as you know, is very different than my station list. We have different tastes. They overlap in some interesting spots. But you want your station list. You want the hip hop when you sit down and turn on your refrigerator,
Absolutely.
when you turn on your device. And so we have one login that reaches across whatever device you've chosen to access the Pandora service from. And that makes us what I like to call natively cross-device. Once we know a fact about a consumer from any device where we might see them or coming in through the Krux platform, we can activate that information anywhere we see that consumer. So we can use that information anywhere we see it to provide the right marketing message, the right music first, but then the right marketing message to that consumer in whatever environment they've chosen to interact with our service in.
Brilliant. So Pandora's been making a lot of progress, and I'm just curious if you could share a couple thoughts as to what are the next steps in the data management arena this year and beyond.
Absolutely. So Pandora's in an interesting spot. We, from our very inception, have been a data company. Data is sometimes we say data is in our DNA. I almost think data is our DNA. The thing that makes Pandora unique is our ability to understand the consumer to deliver exactly the right next song that consumer wants to hear, given what they've been listening to in the last 3 songs, what they've listened to over the last 10 years, in my case, and the ability to use that data to tailor the music experience to that consumer. And that's what we're passionate about, and to support that, from our inception, we've collected every piece of data about every interaction with every consumer. Time of day, type of music they're listening to, how they interact, what carrier they're accessing us on, what device they're accessing it on. Huge pile of data about consumers' interactions with us. And by the way, consumers interact with us for about 22 hours a month. Facebook likes to brag about 16 hours a month. We kill that number. So we're very happy about that.
Awesome.
But having that data and having that ability to understand a consumer is great. But when we reach into the marketing world, we need to go beyond just what we know about the consumer. And so what we're excited about working with Krux on is bringing in a whole broad, rich range of additional data about consumers and helping our marketers access that data. So before we started working with you, we might have been able to craft a segment. In fact, we were able to craft a segment of, say, male Leonard Skinner listeners in Sheboygan. But now we're able to add a whole new range of information about that guy, right? Bob, we'll call him Bob. And we're able to access a whole new range of information. So I might know that Bob, by the way, is an outdoor enthusiast. And I might even know that if through a relationship with LOreal, let's say, that Bob's wife is buying some particular product on a regular basis. And so now I can take everything I know about that consumer, I can inform that with information from third-party data sources, from direct advertiser relationships, and I can deploy that data on any device where I see that consumer. It's hugely powerful. It's what's really making us, frankly, kick ass in the market. Folks been throwing out some statistics. I'll throw out my favorite. Our Q1, from a display perspective, you may know we went sort of fully live with Krux in mid-Q4. Our Q1, from a display sales perspective, was about 7% higher than our Q4. And any publishers in the room have a Q1 that looked like that? Q1 is the drop quarter, right? And we kept growing, and it was all, we can see, it was all because of the data. So we're super excited to be working with you guys. We haven't even talked about all the stuff we're doing with you around new listener acquisition, but we're continuing to build out that platform and going deep.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dave. And that Pandora use case with L'Oreal, we got to get you on LinkedIn.
Let's get it going.
Let's get it going. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks.
So, I want to switch gears, and in the time that remains, I want to talk a little bit about the road ahead. So, Krux is the kind of company that can never stand still. We're amazed by our customers' success, and we're gratified to be supporting you as you achieve it. But we know we constantly need to be pushing the envelope and inventing tomorrow's technology today. Back to the kitchen table for a minute. Remember we said our objective would be to democratize access to an application of data to solve larger problems. Well, part of what underpins that idea is the humble recognition that we're not going to have all of the code, all of the features, all of the answers. So if we're going to help our customers solve their own little fiddle problems, we recognize that everybody needs big data, not small data. So this last year, we were taking stock of what some of our customers were doing, and we noticed that many of them were taking data from Krux and putting it into sort of a private sandbox so that they could do some more specialized analysis on it. The way that they were doing it wasn't terribly smooth or seamless or elegant or automated, but they were doing it. And as we're watching this trend, we just thought, well, why don't we just put the cookies on the low shelf, right? Why don't we work to make that cooler, better, easier? After all, it's totally consistent with that founding idea to democratize access to data. So as frequently happens, the future's already here. And in this case, it's hiding in plain sight. It just isn't evenly distributed yet. Today, I'm excited to announce a new offering from Krux, one that I think you'll find extraordinarily cool and even revolutionary. We call it Krux Data Science as a Service, or DSaaS. Krux Data Science as a Service allows all of our customers and partners to gain access to algorithms and data so that they can experience the power and benefits of data science across many, not just a few. DSaaS is supported by two enabling pieces. The first one is what we're going to call Krux Feed. The second we call Krux Cognitive. I want to give you a sense as to how DSaaS fits into what you already know about Krux. So people data powers everything. Security services at a software layer that manage and protect the flow of that people data. Many of you are using Krux Link. That is the data out activation channel. Think of DSaaS now as the wrapping together of Krux Feed, which solves the access problem, and Krux Cognitive, which focuses on the algorithms piece. All of these now sitting under the same governance framework that you're already accustomed to, with tools like restricted data leasing, trust and verify, except now extended into the realm of Krux Feed and Krux Cognitive. Let's drill into Krux Feed for a minute. Think of Krux Feed as a people data pipeline. Later, Vivek is going to tell you how it works in more detail, but just to fix ideas here briefly, it's a set of open interfaces for people data that includes programmatic APIs for discovery, transport, and certification of data, gateway services for data-driven offerings that can enable our customers and partners to create new services using data, and access to normalized people data in analysis-ready, aggregated, anonymized, privacy-safe formats. It's pretty exciting, and so to help me talk about what's ahead here, I wanted to invite Chris Kelly to the stage. Chris, are you back here?
How's it going?
Everybody welcome Chris Kelly, CEO of Servata. How you doing?
Pretty good, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Chris, for people in the audience who don't know what Servata does, can you give us a quick top line as to what you're about and how you're using Krux Feed?
Of course. So Servata simplifies consumer research for brands and media companies. We're pioneering a new way to interview consumers by tapping into a wide network of publishers, sites, and apps. So naturally, our product gets a lot more powerful when we can use people data to target our research. So joining the Krux ecosystem gives us a lot of leverage.
Can you talk a little bit about how you're using Krux Feed to actually power your offering along?
Definitely. So there's actually two things. One is bringing the power of Servata research to Krux clients, and two is bringing the power of Krux partner data to Servata clients. So on the first one, bringing the power of Servata research to Krux, Krux Feed enables frictionless access to the various Servata research applications for Krux clients. So for example, say a media company here in the audience wants to run an audience profiling study, or a brand here in the audience wants to run an ad effectiveness study with Servata. They can actually do that right through the Krux interface. The API does all the work. So whatever your research need is and whatever your people data is, Servata plus Krux Feed enables this.
So I mentioned we'd seen some of this going on, but it was messy, it was not automated. We knew we had to really take seriously this API design challenge. Can you talk a little bit about how you're using the API to power things along?
Yeah, definitely. So the API is also the core of the second thing that we're enabling with Krux Feed, and that is bringing Krux partner data into Servata. So with that, we're actually proud to announce today on stage the launch of a new product called Segment Surveys. And Segment Surveys is a new product from Servata that allows our clients, which are thousands of brands, media companies, ad agencies, PR firms, et cetera, to target their surveys with the validated second-party data from Krux partners. Of course, with the control and transparency that Krux partners require. And all of this is built on the API. And that's because automation was a need to have for us. We're a technology company, as you know. We're not a service bureau. So when we started conversations, automation was a need to have. So everything we're doing is built on your API framework. So if a media company wants to launch that audience profiling study, they can point and click to send a segment from Krux into Servata, and the API does all the heavy lifting.
Brilliant. I'm really glad that Krux Data Matters can be the site of your announcement for this new product.
We're proud and excited for the capabilities that this new product enables. So.
Super cool.
Great.
Thanks,
Tom.
Chris.
Thanks for having
us. Thanks for being here. So I mentioned that DSaaS was the wrapping together of two services. We've talked about Krux Feed. What about this challenge around sense making? We said our ambition is to democratize access to and application of. So Krux Feed is handling the access part. What about the application? And the specific question here now is, how do we help our clients and partners use big data and algorithms to solve larger problems in a distributed cooperative way? We start from the pretty obvious recognition that the demand for data science far outstrips the available supply of human beings out there who can do it, right? We see many of the companies in this room trying to hire machine learning data science specialists. There just aren't enough of them. So somehow we have to turn this into a software problem where machines can be put to work, or at least help. The I in IMH stands for intelligence. And at Krux, we believe the intelligence can no longer be in the hands of just a few wizards and Shaolin temple masters. We need to let 1,000 flowers bloom. So to achieve this,